have a lot of projects that have rolled in. And quite frankly, webinars are super, super fun and I love doing them, but it is quite a lot of work. So probably you'll see me disappear from the webinar world for a while, and then I'll pop back in a couple months here. But all that to say, let's get rolling here. And if you guys have more topics you want me to go through with your specific business, just drop them in the chat, and we will go through those here in a second. As always, if you have questions, put them in the chat and we'll go through them at the end. So let me just get this screen rolling here. Okay, so first and foremost, content is arguably the most important aspect of your marketing because it's the way your customers connect with you. And I think we can all agree that it's easier said than done. Am I right? Content marketing is slightly different, and it's just the thought process that it's basically saying if you're a content marketer, you're focused on attracting and retaining your ideal audience through the creation and distribution of valuable, relevant, and consistent content. And it is a whole thought process and a whole ideal about running a business as being a content marketer in 2020. And arguably, content marketing is the most important aspect, and it's trending in 2020 because it used to not be such a huge focus on content and more a focus on sales. And what people have realized is that no longer works. So you're having a shift to content marketing now. So why this shift? Why content? Well, one, your customers want value from you. It's an ever increasing saturated market. So instead of just being like, you need to buy from me, you need to show them why through your content, through your and content. Let's just cover this too. Your content not only covers the images that you use, the message that you're portraying, and the words that go with that message, but it also incorporates things like videos in your stories, IGTV, YouTube, I mean, literally anywhere, your blog posts, your Pinterest pins, that's all content. So today we're really going to focus in on social media, but I do want to stress that a lot of this can apply to other aspects of your marketing as well, like your blog posts, you know, website language, anything like that. A lot of what I'm telling you here, you can take and apply to other aspects of your business too. And then with that too, you know, you have to share your brand story. And like we said, the 2020 trend is all about that conversational content. So providing them with a way that they can speak to you and you can speak to them in a way that's easy to understand and kind of just, again, attracts and then retains them. How it helps, I think this is pretty basic, but I like to cover this as well. It builds know, like, and trust. You've probably heard that from any number of coaches. Know, like, and trust. You have to build know, like, and trust. It creates relationships with potential clients and brands, especially. And then the big thing for me is it shows your expertise. So anything that you put out in your content should lend to showing your expertise, whether that be in crocheting, wedding signage, fashion, marketing, whatever it is, like that, your content needs to lend to that aspect of your business. All right, so just real briefly, let's go over the key differences in platforms, okay? Facebook drives more referral traffic than any other social site. It works best for news and entertainment. It's a lot of brand awareness, whereas Twitter is like, hey, retweet this. If you want a great example, I posted a pretty funny video from Train Kennedy to my Instagram stories this morning. And basically, he's doing a little skit about the differences between Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. And it's spot on. It's like if social media were a family, and it's pretty much how it is. So LinkedIn is more for dedicated to B2B, business to business professionals, for industry sharing news and curated articles. Instagram is best for visual content, engaging images and short videos. So, I mean, you have all of these different platforms and they all do and perform different functions for businesses. When you're thinking of your content, you have to think about, okay, where am I putting this piece of content? So, like, if I created a podcast and I wanted to share it on um, my LinkedIn and I wanted to repurpose it, I might need to change a little bit of the verbiage and just take a short snippet from my podcast and change the verbiage so that it fits in the B2B world, right? I wouldn't necessarily want to just like say verbatim my podcast. So the great thing about repurposing content, which I could do a whole separate webinar on, is you can look at these platforms like this and say, okay, Facebook, how do I drive traffic? How do I show entertainment or news? Twitter, how do I share things that can be retweeted? So if it's a quote or if it's a statistic or if it's a new thing that's up and coming on the market, like that's something that would do really great on Twitter. Whereas Instagram, I can do like these gorgeous photos with long caption form, long form captions, which are like, the ones that I do, which are really long, kind of like a little micro blog. And or I can get in my stories and do videos, and I can take things that I did on Instagram and use them on Twitter. I just have to tweak them slightly for that specific platform because I know what that platform does and what it's like, who's there and who is interested in it because of the kind of content that's there. So I think it's really important, first and foremost, to know platform to platform who's there and what you're trying to go for with that specific piece of content, because it shapes and molds how you use that content, whether it's a short section of it, whether it's like a little micro blog, or whether it's an image or an infographic. That's all affected by what platform that you are on. And then again, if you guys have been here through the whole thing, finding your voice, okay, your brand voice and your brand message is super important. I think I've had this slide in every single one of my webinars because I believe in it so much. Because if you don't have a brand message or a brand voice, people can't start to relate with you and get on the same page with you with what you're trying to tell them. So like, if you come to my page, I'm all about entertaining in my Instagram stories and educating and informing you guys. And that I can be sarcastic and I can be nerdy with my stats. And I tend to try to be friendly and open and fun. So like that is like my personality. Like you have to have that tone, the language, the personality, and your purpose when you're talking about writing content. So a couple mistakes to avoid that I just want to go through really quickly with content writing. Okay, confusing advertising with content. So there is a principle called the Pareto principle that is actually talking about the idea that 80% of what you do, I'm going to totally mess this up. 80% of the results come from 20% of the action. So if you're thinking about that in terms of your content writing and how much you sell, because that's a huge question I get, is like how much can I feasibly sell in my content? Something that, a lot of people don't realize is that you should be 80% engage, entertain, and educate, and 20% sales or less. Because again, remember, it's all about that conversational marketing where you're focusing on storytelling, getting to know your customers, and providing them with value first before you sell. I just can't with slides today, you guys. Okay. And again, I just want to stress those of you who hopped on after the fact, if you have a keyword or something that has to do with your industry or business, put it in the chat. Like for example, Dominique did wedding signage and Crystal did sustainability and eco-friendly, because we're actually going to use and do a little practical application during this, because we have a couple less people and a little bit more time because I kind of pared the slides back on purpose to actually be able to show you guys some stuff. So again, okay, so mistake number 2 is no strategy or goal setting. So who are you trying to reach? What do you want them to do? Is there a time frame they need to do it by? Specific strategy and goals makes your life that much easier and brings clarity to your message. And a lot of folks get on social media and they have no strategy and no goal set. Like right behind me, this chalkboard, that's my goal board. I would highly encourage you guys, if you don't have one of those, to create one and create short-term and long-term goals. So like I tend to create goals that are a lot shorter. So like, you know, by June, I want X followers. By June 30th, I want this many people on my email list. And then I can look back at it and I put a date on it so I know kind of when I created that goal and when that goal was actually complete. And it's just kind of a nice way for me to see what I'm actually doing on social. It's the same thing if you create an ad on Facebook and you don't have a goal in mind, your ad is not going to perform as well. It's the same thing with your content. So again, a big piece of this is not knowing your audience. So if you don't know who you're talking to, then writing content gets real sticky. If you're talking to everyone, then you're talking to no one. It's that whole thing where you've heard people say niche down, niche down, niche down. And honestly, like this for me has evolved. And a big way that that's evolved is just in and I could niche down further from where I'm at. I'm currently creative entrepreneurs. I could say photographers. I could say chalk artists. I could say any number of those things. And perhaps someday I might get to the point where I know exactly who that target person is. But for right now, creative entrepreneurs is where my niche is. And that evolves over time, depending on who's resonating with your message. So if you don't know who your audience is right now, don't panic, because it does evolve over time. I don't want you to think that, you just can walk into it and be like, oh, this is who my people are. Because it is a process and it does evolve slowly, sometimes it seems. So bad expectations. This is a huge one for small business owners. Okay, we hop on social media and then we're like, why is this not doing what I want it to do? Why do I not have this many people liking my posts? Okay, look, your content is not going to blow up overnight and make you an overnight sensation unless you're using some type of scam, like the one I posted in my stories this morning that I can't even believe is a real thing. They have 46,000 people following them. And it's basically like, get this many likes and follows for this much money a month. Like, I cannot believe that's still a real thing on Instagram. So your expectation should be that it takes time and consistency to see a payoff in your content. So, and then also it takes a willing attitude and the flexibility to try some new things. Quality versus quantity. This one, guys, this is huge for me. Creating content, if you create content every day, or even if you create content 5 days a week, this is actually hurting you. Why? You actually become a content machine instead of being intentional about what you're putting out. It's an anxiety fest, right? You're decreasing your engagement. So a lot of people, it used to be the more that you put out, the better. And this is no longer the case. What it's actually doing is, with the algorithm being as what it is right now, is the more posts you actually put out, it actually decreases your engagement overall. Because what happens with the algorithm is you only get seen so many times on someone's feed. And if they're not interacting with your posts, they're not going to see all your posts. So if you're posting multiple times in a day and multiple times in a week, your engagement is actually going to drop because they're not going to see what you're actually putting out. And this is actually really interesting on the side where it says, what was your reason for deleting, suspending, reducing your social media usage? This is a current infographic that I wanted to share with you guys. Overload. Okay, right now, there are more people, and you've seen opposites. You've seen where people are like, oh, there's this like 40% increase of people online. when in reality, what's happening is people are getting overloaded on social media. And honestly, I've actually dropped from going 3 times a week with my content to twice, because what I'm feeling is it's like this massive pull on people, and they're just like, I don't have time or energy for this. So you kind of have to read the room and do a little bit of research on like how many people are online. If they're overloaded, how does that change what content I'm putting out? Do I put out like more upbeat, encouraging things versus like the heavy, hard hitting marketing stuff? Like for me, that's something I've had to ask myself a lot lately. And then 3, you don't know what's resonating. So if you're constantly just cranking content out and you're like, I'm a machine, like you don't actually, there's not enough time for you to actually look at what's resonating with people in your insights and with the comments and things. So what happens is you'll actually start to feel behind, and you'll feel like you're reading the room about a week late, because that content, there's a period in there where you really have to kind of gauge what's resonating with people before you just kind of keep plowing ahead. Um, and 4th, it can be a total turnoff. I mean, how many of you guys, raise your hand, how many of you guys have been totally turned off by the amount people post, whether that's an email campaign that they've put out, blog posts, I mean, you name it. Oh my word, there are some people out there where you're like, okay, you need to chill. Okay, bye-bye, unsubscribe, unfollow, can't handle it. And I see quite a few of you with your hands raised. And then the final one is that your customers can't bond with you as well. So if you are just focusing on your content and that's all you're focusing on, it takes a lot of time and energy to do that. So that means time away from engaging with people, time away from your DMs. It's just a massive time suck. So what I would challenge you to do is look at, okay, how many times am I posting? Is there somewhere I can scale back? Because remember, it's all about flexibility and being able to look in real time as a small business owner and say, okay, maybe I don't need to post 3 times a week right now. Maybe I just need to post 2 days a week. And maybe I even need to change the days that I'm posting just to see if something helps with the amount of engagement and with the amount of people who are seeing my posts. So again, I know I spent more time on that slide, but it's really, really important right now. So let's get into researching your content. Why should you? Okay, researching your content provides you with multiple layers of information on a topic. It helps you stay relevant and fresh. It keeps the fear of, am I posting the wrong thing, at bay? And it shows your followers that you are at the peak of your industry. Whatever industry it is, it doesn't matter. It gives that proof that they're looking for, because they can go, like, for example, I had, I think it was Crystal actually, where I had shared in my stories something about how, that you were going to be seeing something come in your stories, and then about a month later it did. So, and then she's like, hey, it's here, like just like you said it was. So, I mean, it's kind of cool to actually be able, if you're researching things ahead of time, you can then later show people, hey, like, this is actually going to happen. Like, I'm not just telling you things to just have fun with this. So one of the big places I go is Quora, Quora. This is a public forum, and basically you can see that I typed in social media content. This is where we're actually going to take some time at the end of this segment, and I'm going to show you how to do this. Then what you can see is you can see all of these questions. So on that sidebar there, you can see all types, questions, answers, posts, profiles, topics, blah, blah, blah. I love to go into the questions section because I can see what specific questions people are asking about social media content. And then I can see how many people are following that thread to kind of give me a good idea of maybe some things to talk about in relation to generating content for social media. So then what I would do is I would take my handy dandy little content journal here, and I will write that down. So what do you use? So maybe I talk about generating content for social media. I could make that into a post here, a blog post, I could make that into a podcast. I mean, I could do any number of things with generating content for social media. And then the next one down is, what do you use for a content calendar? Okay, maybe I create a content calendar. So I mean, you can see there are some like really interesting things, like what are the best tools for doing text analysis on social media content? What are the main types of social media content? So this is one of the places I go, and you can type any number of things into that search bar and see what questions people are asking. Another place I go is called Answer the Public. So I put the exact same thing in here, social media content. And you can see I get why, what, will, which, where, when, how, can, who. And then below, there are even more prepositions. And you can see why social media content is effective. What is social media content? What is social media content calendar? Why is social media content important? What makes social media content successful? And like I could literally go through there and I could pick up 5 to 6 ideas for content purposes that people are actually, this is what people are actually searching online. So these are actually search terms that people have put into the search bar. And I can see that in real time. So again, Answer the Public is another great one. One that a lot of people don't think about is Udemy. Udemy is a site that is for like taking courses or classes. And again, I put the same thing in there. I just put social media content, and these pulled as classes, and I can see kind of like what the best sellers are. I can see how many people have bought into like how to build a brand on social media, has 533 reviews. So clearly I need to be talking more about branding on social media, or social media marketing simplified for artists and creatives, and managing multiple social media accounts, and that has 145 different reviews. So I can get in here and I can kind of see what's actually selling, because if you know what's already selling, it makes it a lot easier to come up with your content. And the highest rated one is social media contests for massive traffic to your product. So hey, maybe I need to start doing more posts about driving that traffic for social media contests, and talking more about that in what I'm doing. So again, this is a really great tool for me to just kind of do a little bit of research and reading the room and seeing what's already selling, what questions people are asking, and how many people are asking those questions. Another great couple things you can do is ask your followers, create a poll. I think a lot of you guys do this already. Ask a question in a post. You can send out a survey via email through like SurveyMonkey, etc. Or if you have a Facebook group and a community, you can ask questions in there. If you don't have your own and you're part of another like entrepreneurial or creative group, you can, as long as the moderators say you can ask questions in there and try to get some feedback off of those people, as long as you're not selling. That's kind of the key there. So just be willing to pay attention and then act. So start a content journal. Write your ideas in the notes in your phone if you don't want to write it down on paper. Or another great thing that I love to do is I even create voice memos to pull from. So like if someone asks me something in my DMs and I don't want to forget it, or I have somebody who reached out in a comment and was like, I need to know more about this, I write it down. So like I have, what is social media ROI? What is digital marketing trends? Who needs it? Benefit strategies. I mean, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 6 full pages of content ideas that I haven't even gone through yet. So what this does for me is it eliminates a huge amount of stress off of my back, because when I get stuck, I don't know what to talk about. Hello. not only here, but then also in the notes in my phone or my voice memos, because I pull from all of those sources. So not only do I have things written down on paper when I'm actually sitting down to do research, but I also have them in the notes in my phone and my voice memos. And this is something I try to do at least once a month for at least an hour, just to Google and see what's new and what's trending with the questions people are asking, so that I can get some fresh ideas and fresh perspective, because some of this I researched like 3 to 6 months ago. And I did include in your like take-home supplies a checklist for you to go through when you're researching, and some tips for you to research, so you can like print it out and have it next to your desk, just as a little guide to help you out. It's like a step-by-step. So let's get practical, okay? So let me get out of here, and I just want to show you guys some things, and let me just see this chat really quick. All right, so we have sustainability, eco-friendly, wedding signage, and healthcare. Those are the 3 that I have. So let's go into Quora, for example, and let's ask about eco-friendly. Actually, can you clarify like what you're talking about in terms of sustainability and eco-friendly? Is that like clothing? Is that like, can you just clarify? Okay, so let's just do wedding signs. If I can type. Okay, so there's a lot of questions here, and let's just open this up and say answer the public as well. And again, these are all free, guys, so you don't need to sign in. You don't need anything. These are all free. Let's just do let's do wedding art, because I think wedding signs are going to be a little bit more ambiguous. And sometimes you have to get a little creative. Let's just do chalk art, Dominique, because we'll, just for the purposes of this, the first one is chalk art. Yeah, see, because wedding art, you have to get a little creative with some of these sometimes. And if you wanted to do something that was more generic, again, you're looking for something like as generic as possible, so you get as many search returns as possible. Okay, so how do you preserve sidewalk chalk art? Okay, so maybe instead of talking about sidewalk chalk art, maybe you talk about how do you preserve your wedding signs, or how do you specifically make sure as a chalk artist that your signs are preserved. Like, do you spray them with hairspray? Things like that. I mean, you could take this, like, is there anything I can put over chalk art drawing to keep it set? You already do that, I know personally. So you could talk about that in one of your posts. There are some very interesting things on here, I will say. Okay, so this, again, you have to get a little bit creative. Again, what to spray on chalk art, how to preserve chalk art, how to seal chalk art, how to draw chalk art. So maybe you do a tutorial. And again, you just have to get a little bit more creative with what you're searching. Let's move on to, we'll just do like one example for each of these from what I'm seeing. Let's see, photography. Again, I can't type. So you can see photography, if you just put in something extremely generic, this comes up with a lot of stuff. So how does one become better at photography, artistic photography? If you wanted to get more specific and do like family photography, and see what pulls, like, what do I need to know are the basics? How much does family photography cost? Why will people not pay much good for family photography? That is a good question, isn't it? Oh my gosh. What is the newest trend in wedding photography? Why is wedding photography so expensive? What is the best lens? What are the basic tips? What are the best wedding photography ideas? Best, how would you self-shoot, or why should you not self-shoot your wedding photography? There are a lot of basic things that you can put in to really kind of get, and obviously you guys, some of these are really wacky, but when I go in here, I tend to kind of read between the lines, and I look for like things like this. So what should a wedding photography package include? AKA, what does your wedding photography package include? Or what does your family photography package include? Do you work with somebody who does videography instead of you're like, oh, that doesn't apply to me. Okay, it could apply to you if you work with somebody who's a videographer, because that's what people are wanting to know about. Why is photography an important aspect in weddings? Newest trend would be interesting. That could be a whole blog post. But basically these social, okay, and I've hit the maximum free searches here, or you can do free searches all day long. Let's do another one. Healthcare. Let's do chiropractic. Chiropractic. Okay. So what is the value of chiropractic therapy? How safe are chiropractic adjustments? How does it work? Are they legitimate? Is it safe for pregnant women? What typically happens during an adjustment? Can they cure sciatica? How beneficial is it? What are the dangers of it? Okay, another really great tool that I use as well is a little it's a search plugin up here on my PC called Keywords Everywhere. So like, for example, if I put in chalk art, this is another really great way for me to see what people are asking, especially if I put in like wedding chalk art. Custom chalkboard signs for wedding, chalkboard wedding sign templates, engagement photo ideas. So if you have Pinterest, you could create a board and do ideas. Where to buy chalkboard signs for weddings. Maybe if you work with a vendor, you could plug your vendor. Wedding signage checklist. Maybe if you have like how many days before the wedding should they sign up with you? How personalized can their wedding chalkboards be? What is the price per square foot? What kind of entrance signs would you recommend based on the kind of event that they're doing? Let's see. Eco-friendly earrings. I don't know if that's going to pull anything. That's pretty specific. Okay. Jewelry that helps the environment. Is gold environmentally friendly? Recycled metal. Okay, so do you use recycled metal? Like, what do you use that is, affordable, ethical jewelry? Like, what does that mean? Because again, people are asking, like, what is sustainable jewelry? Like, what does that mean? Environmentally friendly bracelets, vegan jewelry, sustainable jewelry blog. Like, this is actually what people are searching about when they're searching for eco-friendly earrings. So again, it's really interesting to see, and let's just do eco-friendly, let's say products. Products. What are some examples? What are the disadvantages and advantages? What is the impact of using eco-friendly products on the environment? What are some of the best environmentally friendly products? So instead of using products, maybe you insert the word jewelry, because again, sometimes you have to kind of work the system here with the researching. Even I have to do that. I mean, the chiropractic, you can see you have a lot more options, just because chiropractic, like if you put that in as a search term, it's very broad. So if you're doing something like changing, chalk to artwork, this is the kind of things like it gets a little bit more, you can see there's more people following a lot of these topics, the more general that you get. So keep that in mind when you are doing a little bit of your researching. And again, these are 3 tools that I use on a regular basis, and they're called social listening tools. And they really help me just to see what people are asking and what people are searching for. And again, just keep in mind, be incredibly broad with your search term. Okay, so let's get into hashtags. I could spend way more time on that, but let's get into hashtags really quick. So you need to be using at least 10 hashtags on a post, if not more. Okay, you can either place them in the first comments. Some scheduling apps like Leader actually allow you to do this already. Or you can place them in the actual body of your content. It's really a matter of preference. There is no right versus wrong. It's really what you want to do. I would recommend, if you do use them in your caption or in your first post, you use 5 periods. So period, space, period, space, period, and it just makes it so that no one can see your hashtags. They're kind of hidden. If you're using less than this, you are missing a huge piece of your audience. I use less than 30, usually about 20 to 25 hashtags, because I don't want to be seen as a bot or have any issue with Instagram thinking that I'm a bot. Because typically if you use 30 hashtags and you use them again and again and again, it's kind of a red flag to the Instagram algorithm. So your range here, okay, you really want to be focusing on long tail hashtags. So what do I mean by that? So it's the difference between using a hashtag like creative that has 70.1 million posts in it versus hashtag we are the creative economy that has 142K. And then also another long tail hashtag would be like creative cultivate, which has 17.5K. And again, it's the difference between makers of Instagram versus create, make, share versus makers of IG. So like you have to look for like those long tail, instead of just saying like positive, kindness, gratitude. You need to look for those like long tail hashtags that live in those smaller niche communities. So I use a mix. It's safer to use 10% for 500K plus, so 10% of your hashtags, 5K plus, 15% for 100K, 25 for 50, 20, and 10K. So like the bulk of your hashtags, when you are researching your hashtags, you want them to be in those lower ranges, because you have a higher you will have a higher tendency to actually be seen instead of just drowned out by all of the other posts that get dumped into those larger hashtag groups. And again, those smaller niche communities are actually where your target audience is going to hang out anyways. That is where those communities are built, is in those smaller pods, if you will. So a couple other tips about this, and then I'm actually going to show you some of this too, is to mix them up. Don't use the same group over and over again, because again, you don't want Instagram to flag you as a bot. Research and create groups for your audiences. So like if you are a chalk artist, if you're a chiropractor, you want to create groups of hashtags that have to do with the audiences that you have. So like, for example, if you are doing wedding chalk versus engagement versus family versus home decor, like all of those are different hashtag groups that you can create. Research new groups is a big tip. Research new groups every few months for a refresh, because those hashtags that you previously researched, they've grown. So all of those percentages could be off. So you need to kind of stay on top of those hashtags, because there's a shift every couple of months. And one of the big tricks that I do is to use related hashtags to help me discover new hashtags. And you can see up here where I'm kind of showing you that, and I'm actually going to show you how I research hashtags here in just a second. Actually now. So if I go into Instagram, for example, okay, I actually do this, and I'm a big believer. I know a lot of people use apps for hashtags. I am a big believer in actually going to the source, okay? Because an app isn't going to tell you what this looks like when you actually come into the posts. I can tell you just from looking at hashtag marketing, these are not my people, okay? I don't want to talk to these people. These people are going to spam and scam me. Most likely, like 80% of them are going to be like, hi, I did Bitcoin through Mr. So and so, and it changed my life. Like, I don't want these people. Okay, so then what I do is I say, okay, this is my short form here, and then the related hashtags are up here. So maybe I can come into digital marketing from this one. Okay, and then I look in here and I say, okay, well, no, not really there yet. So then maybe I go into content marketing from digital marketing. Okay, that's closer. But maybe I go into digital marketing tips. Um, you can see the numbers start to go down when you start really clicking through some of these hashtags, and I can be like, oh, hey, those look like actual real people. Like, I'm getting closer. Um, So again, you really want to kind of pop through here and see where these like long form hashtags are, and you want to actually look at what the posts look like, especially the top posts in this hashtag, because it tells you a lot about the type of people and the type of community that hangs out on this hashtag. Like for example, if I did creative, let's just make sure that's a hashtag. Come on, you can do it. If I did creative, I'd be like, okay, maybe, but not so much. So maybe I need to come into creative thinking. Okay, yeah, that's more like it. And see, then I have this many people in this hashtag. And I can look at this and say, okay, now I need to find, 4 or 5 more in in this range, and then the rest of them I need to look for smaller. And then maybe I need to look for 1 or 2 that are like 500 plus. But what you basically do is you can look through these related hashtags, and when you get to these pages, you can actually start to get a sense of who's posting in here, so that you know that you're actually talking to real people. Again, an app also can't tell you, unless you use like a banned hashtag app, it can't tell you if you click on a hashtag and it says, um, this hashtag has been flagged by the community for violating the community user guidelines. And what it basically does is, if you use a hashtag like that and you're not aware that you're using a hashtag like that because an app populated it for you, you cannot tell whether or not it has been flagged. And you and I both know Instagram claims they don't shadow ban people who use hashtags that have been flagged. But I have had people personally experience where they've used a banned hashtag, and then their account, suddenly no one can see it or do anything with it. And then it takes, weeks or months for Instagram to like put their account back. So I would just caution you, if you are going to use hashtags off of an app, make sure you just plug them in here and make sure that they're actually hashtags you want to talk to, because it makes up a lot, your hashtags make up a lot of the reason why you get seen on this app. So if you're using hashtags and you're talking to an audience you don't even want to talk to, like for example, I would never talk to, if it's going to come, like there are specific ones where it's nothing but like infographics, and probably this digital marketing one. Like, I would never talk to these people because they're not my people. So again, you need to remember like who you're talking to, because like you guys aren't going to come into this hashtag to come and find me, and people like you. So you really need to make sure like you know who you're talking to. And a big part of knowing who you're talking to is just checking on these hashtags to make sure that they are legitimate communities and not spam or scam kind of posting accounts. Um, does that make sense? Do you guys have any questions about hashtags like while I'm on the topic? Feel free to like drop them in while we keep going here, and then I'll go through them at the end. Okay, so now that you've researched, now that you've gone through all your hashtags, what you need to do is create a plan. Okay, so I like to really utilize a content calendar because it really helps me. I will say right now, I'm not using a content calendar and I'm stressing because of it. And part of that is because you really can't plan adequately right now because, I mean, what is life right now, really? Uh, so what I'm trying to do is base this off of like a um, 1 to 2 week kind of plan for myself, so that I at least have a sense of direction as far as what I'm talking about and what I'm doing. So if you're one of those people who you're like, I cannot plan for a month, I can't do it. Okay, plan your week. So, or plan the next 2 weeks, and at least have a rough outline on a piece of paper so that when you go to write your post, okay, you actually can have that sense of consistency. You're building that presence with your audience. You have a sense of direction, which means you have less stress. You can actually track like what's working, what's not working. And it provides, if you do want to run an ad, it provides insight on where and when to spend your money. What I do to kind of accomplish this is I do a lot of batching. So I will sit down and write my posts all in one day. I will take photos all in one day. So whether or not that's photos for like the next week or the next 2 weeks, whatever, it doesn't matter. I have them that I can pull from. So I'm not like, oh crap, I need an image with this post. Like, where do I go with this? So like do all the writing in one day. So if I have blog posts, I'll write more than one blog post in a day if I have time. I'll do all of my email marketing, sit down and write all of that in one segment. So whether or not I like do two and then take a break and then come back 2 days later and finish it. Basically batching allows you to stay in that like focused mindset. So you're not like switching tracks, because when you switch, you and I both know when we switch tracks and we try to focus on something up, your brain's like, wait, what am I doing? I'm so confused. And then what happens is you just kind of feel like you can't catch up. So if you stay in your content and you're like, okay, I'm going to write my social media posts for the next 2 weeks. Okay. And then what I do is I allow myself the flexibility and the freedom to say, okay, if I'm feeling like this post isn't going to work, then I can just move it. Like I can move it and save it for later, but it's already written. Okay. So like I have a post, for example, that I wrote a month and a half ago before COVID hit, and I still have not used it because it hasn't been the right time. But I still have it and I can save it for when I do want to use it. Does that make sense? So it's not like you have to feel like, okay, if I make this content calendar, then I am stuck in it no matter what, and I can't adjust. No, give yourself the freedom to have that flexibility to say, okay, cool, awesome. I created this content. It's good content. I'm going to use it, but now is not the right time. So I'm just going to push it. And then, your photos, if you take images of products, take a day and take images of products. So like I take 1 day a month for 3 to 4 hours and focus on flat lays and images for social media. So like desk shots or images of myself, like taking pictures or writing on things. And in that 3 to 4 hours, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to have 3 to 4 different outfits, and I'm going to take this time once a month to focus on creating those flat lays. So like this can be especially helpful if you're doing like a product launch, or if you have a shop that's going to be opening, just taking that dedicated time to really focus on that specific piece of content. And then again, graphics for my posts. So like a lot of my posts have infographics with them now, whether it's like Twitter, like a tweet that I put inside of an image, or whether it's like an actual, graphic that I created that has like multiple things on it with icons and text and whatever. I like to really do those all at the same time. So because if I step away, and then try to come back to it, it's twice as hard to finish that. Another great thing that you can do and utilize, which I'm actually, as like a little surprise, I'm going to be giving you guys a content calendar, like ideas for 30 days. And it's going to be specific to what you guys would need. And it's going to be like ideas that you can kind of do like a jumping off points, like day themes, hashtag themes, national, world, day, week, month themes, trends or challenges. And then thinking about like what your followers would actually like to see from you. And I'm going to put that together probably in the next week or so and push it out to as a thank you for anybody who came to my webinar. So it's going to be kind of like a content idea generator for the next 30 days that you guys can pull from. But theming your content can be a great and amazing way for you to say, okay, Monday, I'm going to do like a motivational post. Tuesday, I'm going to do Tuesday tip day. Wednesday, I'm going to do Wednesday wisdom. Thursday, I'm going to do technique. So maybe I share a tutorial or something that I learned about how to do this specific stitch or this specific, with this specific kind of chalk. Like you can theme your days to take a lot of pressure off of yourself to say, I don't know what I'm talking about, but oh, sweet, let me do like Friday favorites and share my favorite accounts so that like if I feel stuck, I don't stay in that rut. I can then just be like, okay, what's today? Oh, Tuesday tip day. Let me share a tip. And then it just kind of helps you and have so much more energy and intention behind what you're doing instead of just feeling like you're like, I don't even know. Hashtag themes are the same thing. A lot of the themes I just talked about actually started from hashtags. Hashtag Monday motivation, hashtag Tuesday tips, hashtag Wellness Wednesday is a big one. Hashtag technical Thursdays or technique Thursdays, Friday follows, Friday favorites. I mean, those are all hashtag themes, and they've kind of turned into things that you can use as day themes. And then again, there are calendars online that tell you like this month is national, I believe it's National Stress Awareness Month. So if any of you have something in your specific realm and your brand and your niche where you can talk about ways that you relieve stress, or if you're a chiropractor, like how does chiropractic care relieve stress? If you're a life coach, what are your like stress tips? And then trends or challenges. So like a big thing that's you're going to see coming to Instagram is in your story stickers, you're going to start to see challenges. And you could take a couple ideas from that and use them in posts or in a blog post or and just hop on, like, I've shared what's trending in the marketing world in 2020, and I wrote 7 different tips about what's trending. So you can really kind of have fun with it in a different way and have some different things to pull from if you theme that content. Check your insights. You guys know I'm big into this. If you came to the last webinar, this is a big thing for me. See when to post. We talked about that last time. If you didn't watch that, it's on my YouTube channel. Check to make sure your engagement is high, and check to see what content is resonating in the last 30 days. Why 30 days? I just feel like it's a better representation of kind of like the pulse of your audience. So like my top 5 posts in the last 30 days. This one's talking about me struggling with what to post. Shocking. And then the next one is how your insights can help you. The next one after that is history lessons, which my history lessons do really well anytime I post them. And this one was specifically about Mary Curie and about how she started out in a potato shed. So just kind of giving people some interesting tidbits about history, checking your language, like how are you talking about yourself, and then new features coming to Instagram. So for me, for the next 30 days, that can kind of inform me and say, okay, my number 1 post that's resonating with people is what I'm struggling with. Okay, so maybe instead of sharing some of these like heavy hitting, like, posts about how to, like what makes you distinct from other people and like talk like deep introspective things about SEO, maybe I talk more about what I'm struggling with. Maybe I talk more about your insights. Maybe I share another history lesson since that one did really well. This kind of gives you the pulse on really what's performing well. And again, if you go on your insights and you choose the 30 days and choose impressions, choose reach, it shows you like the top performing posts in the last month. And actually this one right here with the coffee with my shoes in the snow, that one I thought was going to be one of my top performing posts because it was when I asked you guys if you're online more or less. And surprisingly, it's kind of far down there, even though it has 62 comments. So it's really just interesting to me to get in here because what I think is going to do well, sometimes it doesn't. So it helps to inform me how to move forward with what I'm posting about on a monthly and even weekly basis. Oh, I guess I broke that out. So writing your content. Okay, spacing matters. I talked about this in my stories yesterday. I think it's still there if you guys want to go watch it after this. A big jumble of text is not easy to digest. You need to use an app like Later to get those spaces in there and keep them there. Use the notes in your phone to keep space, or use something like appsforlifehost.com, which is actually in the link in my bio on Instagram. Use a period between your paragraphs. Just remember that when you hit enter, you need to make sure you don't have any space like this. And hopefully it's going to play. So no space at all. Back up on that period. In the notes in your phone, you will need another period, okay, to keep that space. If you're using Apps for Life Host or something like a scheduling app like Later, you do not need to worry about that because they keep the line breaks for you, provided that there is no space after the period. Okay, if you have a space after the period, it's going to mess up your whole post. And the reason for this is you want to have space because you want it to be easy for people to read. If you have a big jumble of text at the tippy top, it's kind of like, oh, I'm not going to take the time to read that. Okay, so break it out and make it really user-friendly and really easy to read. And I guarantee you it'll increase your engagement. Okay. The next big one is your hook matters. So the hook is the very beginning sentence. This is all people see. So if it says something like, my kids and I went to Sam's Club, I'm not going to click on that. Okay. You need something where it's like, kind of think of it like when you used to write a paragraph for school or an essay for school and you had to have like that intro sentence that was like the most important sentence. It's the same thing, and it kind of like encapsulates your entire post. So like the one on the right, I'm talking about how my Apple Watch just called 911 for me. And then I went on to talk about my insights. If you want to know how that relates to each other, go read my post. And then the next one, fear is a reaction, courage is a decision. I'm trying to get people's attention with all caps. So it's the only thing, oftentimes the only thing that people will ever see about your post. So you have to set that hook, especially if they're finding you off of a hashtag and they don't know you from Adam. Like that hook is your most important asset to your post because they have to click more to read the rest of it. So whether you're selling, whether you're educating, whether you're pushing them somewhere, like you're linking your bio, if they don't click more, they're never going to see it. Okay, using emojis. This can be another great way to break up your text. Don't get crazy, but use them for emphasis, so not every other word. So you can really, those also help you really break up that text and make it easier to read. I know some folks on here that put emojis after every single paragraph. Yeah, you don't need to do that. Just use them to kind of put an emphasis and kind of capture a little bit more attention and break things up a little bit more. Images and videos. Pair with your content. Your images and videos should be uniquely you. I think one of the biggest compliments that I ever received from anyone is that they've told me as soon as they see a mountain or trees, they know it's me. Another big thing that if you're going to do that whole branding thing, like we talked about in the very first webinar, it should all work together and be seamless. So your images and pictures and videos should have a similar feel that should be uniquely you because it's your brand. Don't be stiff and scripted on social media. Remember your platform. You need to show up as your authentic self, even if it isn't perfect. If you are practicing in front of the camera for 9 hours just trying to capture one video, you're doing it wrong. Okay, save the edits for YouTube. On social media, especially with the content that you're pairing, it's supposed to be that conversational one-to-one pull that people are looking for so that they can relate to you as a business owner and resonate with who you are as a person before they resonate with your product. So keep that in mind when you're putting out any video or any script on your feed or in your stories. Okay, focusing on saves and shares. So saves are the new super like. Okay, one of the creators at Instagram, actually, that's a direct quote from him. Treat your post like a micro blog, kind of, and you don't have to be as long or as detailed as me, you know, but having the trend is that content is getting longer and longer on social. And if it's going to be long, it needs to have detailed, rich information that people will want to come back to and reference for later. So start creating or sharing quote tiles and infographics to kind of bridge this gap. People are more likely to save these because it's info they need to process or that they want to share later with their own audience. Or you can create content like a 60-second tutorial, a checklist, or the equipment that you use. So like if you're going to share apps, or you're going to share how you create a specific piece of content, or a time lapse of your process, like those are the types of things that people can come back to and view later because they want to know how to do it themselves, or they want to remember that information so that they can go look into it or download those apps. And in the spur of the moment, all they want to do is hit save instead of reading the whole thing. So be clear and direct. When in doubt, ask for a save. You'll be shocked. Like if I don't ask for a save, I get way less saves. If I ask for a save, all of my saves like go through the roof. So if you want to get people to save your posts, just start asking them to. But remember, it needs to be detailed, rich information. Okay, this is a big one, and we're almost done, I swear. Call to action. Tell them where and what you want them to do and where you want them to go. Click the link in my bio, check out my stories, ask them to share to their stories, direct them to a link, or ask questions that they can answer. Some of my top performing posts right now are questions that I have specifically asked my followers to answer for me so that I could get to know them better, or I could kind of get that finger on the pulse about how many people are online versus people who aren't. And those are some of my top performing posts because I made the post a little bit shorter and I asked I had a clear and direct call to action on what I wanted them to do. Okay, and then lastly, Rome was not built in a day. Content creation, building a content calendar, all of this stuff, researching, it's a lot of work. But it does pay off if you're consistent with it. And again, like spending a day researching before you write content for the next 3 months, it saves you an incredible amount of time. Just to have the sheer aspect of saying, okay, I actually know, I've either asked my audience, I went online and seen what people are searching for. I know what's selling in Udemy, or I know what people are asking about on Quora. Or I know what keywords they're researching on Google. I can then take that information and kind of have a better picture for the next 25 posts that I do, where I'm not guessing if what I'm putting out is something that people actually want to know about. And you might think, oh gosh, well, like I do jewelry, I'm so different from marketing, or I do chalk art, it's so different from marketing. People are still asking questions. And if you don't know what they're asking, you can't answer them. So if you're not doing the research to look into what people want to know, and that can even just be Googling and seeing what blog posts come up about your specific product or idea, photography, chiropractic, gardening, I mean, anything. People Google anything and everything these days, and taking a couple hours out of your month to research your content is going to pay off in dividends. Like, I mean, you'll be shocked. And it saves you so much time because you're not constantly on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, just trying to scratch at the earth and hope that something kind of pulls for you as far as inspiration goes. Getting into your insights to find out when to post. On the weekly, it all changes. Last week for me, my best times to post were Monday, Wednesday, Friday at like 7:30 in the morning. This week, it's 12 p.m. and Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So like all of that stuff changes depending on your followers. So paying attention to that stuff. And then figuring out what's working better. Do you ask questions? Do you need to shorten up your captions? Do you need to make longer captions? Do you need to start making tutorials or videos of your process? It's based largely on you getting on social media and posting, period. Okay, because if you're not posting anything at all based on what you've researched and what you've asked people about or what people have asked you, and you're not posting, it's really difficult for you to say what is and what isn't working, because that flexibility and adaptation requires you to experiment and have things that you're putting out, even if you're afraid they might be the wrong thing. You can't start to get that feedback until you start to push things out. If you already post, take stock of what is and what isn't working, and then adapt and flex with it. You have the capability to adapt so much faster than a large corporation. So take advantage of it as a small business owner, especially right now. So like last week when I realized people are online less because you guys told me you were, I'm like, okay, cool. Wow, I can flex and adapt now, and I can breathe a sigh of relief because I know that posting 3 times a week isn't necessarily maybe the greatest idea right now. And reading the room and having those kind of, like I said, I keep saying finger on the pulse. It's so true right now. We all need to have that as small business owners. And one of the best ways to do that is by doing that social listening and seeing what's resonating with people, what questions people are asking, and then getting on there and doing things that allow you to be flexible and take some stress off of your plate as far as your content goes. Do you guys have any questions? I don't see any questions on the side there, but I'm going to open it up right now for questions before I let you guys go, because I did run a teeny bit over. I'll wait for a couple minutes or so, see if any questions come in. No question is a dumb question. So if you have a question about hashtags, if you have a question about content calendars, really anything that I said, type it in the chat or raise your hand. Any questions at all? You're welcome, Miss Kayla. Love your name, by the way. Okay, again, just as I'm waiting, I will say this will be up on YouTube by the end of the day today. You guys will get the links to this. And I will let you know if I do start webinars back up in the next couple months. If you would just write me like a little feedback, or even go on Facebook and write me a review for any of the webinars that I've done. I would super appreciate any feedback that you guys have, so I know how to grow and improve the next go round. Yeah, I will let you guys go. I don't see any questions coming in. Can't believe you guys don't have any questions. So if you do have questions after, please feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. But as for now, I hope you guys have a wonderful Wednesday, and make sure to tune in my stories tomorrow for more Did You Know? And I will talk to you guys soon.